All right, next, Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal. This is a huge fight, and there's a lot of debate about whether the winner of this fight could somehow leapfrog Colby Covington and fight Leon Edwards for the title. And I think so, but I think there's only one way it happens. There's only one way it happens. And I don't think it's if Gilbert Burns wins. I think, here's the problem. Masvidal already has a highlight reel of him getting KO'd by Usman, right? That's just like that. That's there. So if Gilbert Burns goes out and does the same thing to Masvidal, I don't think the impact is as big as if Masvidal does it to Gilbert, right? I think this is what I think happens. I think if Gilbert Burns goes out and puts on an impressive show, and let's say he finishes Jorge Masvidal, I don't think he leapfrogs Colby for the fight. I still don't think Gilbert has enough star power behind him even after that win because, like I said, Jorge already has a bad KO loss. So even a highlight reel KO or whatever over Jorge this weekend, I don't think it has the stock that Jorge knocking out Gilbert does, right? Like if Gilbert knocks out Jorge, great. But I don't think the UFC is going to let Gilbert cut in front of Colby. On the other hand, if Jorge can go out and somehow KO Gilbert Burns and get a highlight reel finish with Gilbert Burns, they're going to give Jorge the title fight. Because not only can you promote the entire time the Askren head kick, him starching Darren Till, and now him starching Gilbert Burns, and then you add on top of that the three-piece in the soda, that's your next title fight. If Jorge Masvidal somehow pulls off the win this weekend, I don't even want to say somehow because he's a massive underdog this weekend too, and I think Masvidal could win this fight. Masvidal is a bad motherfucker, man. Masvidal is a bad dude, and he can box. He can pressure box. He uses kicks well. He has good wrestling defense, right? Granted, like against Colby, he got outworked in those situations. But my point is overall, he is well-rounded, and I do think that he has good takedown defense. I just think Colby is a really, really good wrestler. Really, like an elite-level MMA wrestler. So I think that's why Masvidal struggled there. But overall, man, he's good. He's competent in those areas, you know? He'll surprise you sometimes in those situations. Masvidal is in this fight. But if Masvidal knocks out Burns, I'm telling you, and you got to think about the fact that Masvidal is 38, so the UFC knows that the window to promote this stardom is a little bit short. People are going to be excited about him if he picks up the win. The fight's in fucking Miami, right? His hometown. He's going to be like getting fucking showered with love from the fans during this event. If he goes out and picks up a big win, his past history with Leon is going to be enough for him to leapfrog Colby. But if Gilbert wins this weekend, even if he wins impressively, don't expect Gilbert to be the one fighting for the title next. It'll be Colby. That's my thought. Anyway, let's break down who I think is going to win. I think that, like, we kind of talked about it a little bit through that little rant I had, right? But, like, I think Masvidal does a good job of, like, boxing. I think he's going to have maybe a slight advantage on the feet. But the problem is that Gilbert has a lot of power, man. Gilbert has a lot of power in those hands, and some of the shots that he cracked Khamzat Chimaev with might have knocked other men out. And like I said, we've seen Jorge get knocked out now and get knocked out clean and get knocked out bad. And if Gilbert can touch him on the chin like that, man, who knows? Could be able to put him out. So there's going to be that interesting dynamic going on where I actually think Jorge is probably a little bit better, more technical on the feet, but I think that Burns is probably more powerful, and that can be a game changer, and it can make up for a lot, right? I think that Burns is going to go out and win this fight. I think Masvidal has a chance, but it's going to be tough to keep Burns off him, and I think Burns is going to be willing to be aggressive. But man, Masvidal is a dog, and we're going to talk about this like at the end when I recap everything and we go over the bets I was talking about. But I got to sprinkle a little on Masvidal, man. He's such a big underdog, and I think people sleep on how good he really is. Jorge Masvidal is a very, very, very well-rounded mixed martial artist. Make no mistake about it. Even in situations where he was losing to Colby, he knows what he's doing. He knows what's going on, right? It's just hard to overcome that level of wrestling sometimes. But Jorge is good, man, and I think Jorge could win this weekend. I just think Gilbert is most likely to pull it off, you know? And if Gilbert can start exposing the back at all of Jorge the way that Colby did, you know, like how Colby was kind of crawling on him in those situations and trying to finish the rear naked but couldn't. Gilbert might be able to. Gilbert's got world-class jiu-jitsu, so Jorge does have to be careful not to let Gilbert onto his back. If Gilbert latches onto your back and he gets a takedown against the cage like that, man, Gilbert's scary. Gilbert's got world-class jiu-jitsu, so Masvidal's got to be a little bit more careful of that, but Masvidal's well-rounded, man. I think the thing is that Burns, I think, will have a harder time getting the fight into that situation, because, like, I think it wasn't necessarily difficult for Colby, but it wasn't easy to keep Masvidal there. And I think Masvidal will have an easier time keeping Burns off him than he did Colby, right? So I'm going with Burns, but I think Masvidal's a live dog.